Rox.
Hi, Matthew.
How are you?
I'm glad to see you've made an effort today.
Thank you very much. Do you like my glasses?
I do. I really like the backwards cap.
Do you?
Very trendy.
I am trendy.
It doesn't age you at all.
For a 44-year-old, I think I am extremely trendy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, who are we speaking to this week?
We are going to speak to the amazing Ross Adams.
Oh, I like Ross.
Oh, I like Ross.
Ross is a lovely man, isn't he?
Let's speak
He's
to
a lovely
Ross.
man. Let's speak to Ross. Why are you doing that to Ross?
I didn't get sacked, but I had to leave.
Hello. We don't start like that. Like, we've never done that before. That's not a thing.
Hi, Ross. It's so
Hello.
nice to have you on
It's
the
lovely to
podcast.
be here. Thank you for having me.
And it's nice to see you again. Last time I saw you, we were in Malta, weren't we?
Yeah, I know. Weather was way nicer.
I just like to say I like that Ross made an effort with his outfit today. You, on the other hand,
Why are you so mean to me?
because I just feel like we could both make a bit
You're
more of
sat
an
there
effort.
in an unironed shirt,
Yeah, it
and
is, isn't
you have the gall to tell me that I haven't made an effort.
I think we both need to make more of an effort. Look at Ross sat there all smart, smells nice.
He smells nice, I was gonna
hair
say.
done.
I did have a little spritz just before
He had
I
a
left the
spritz,
car.
he went to
'cause
the hairdresser,
yeah, I did.
stunning.
I did. Yeah,
Me and
I
you,
tried.
scruff bags, we need to sort it out. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited
You're
that you're here
welcome.
with us today. So should we dive straight? Oh yeah. You guys worked on that thing
Well,
together,
that's
didn't
what
you?
we were just
Sorry,
saying.
I interrupted.
Before you told me I
Carry
looked
on.
scruffy.
Go
yeah.
on.
So we've, we were working on Good Shit Murder. Well, you worked on every episode of season 2, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your character was essentially the character that Claire Sweeney kind of left behind
That's
when she
right.
went into Corrie.
Cruise
so you were like the
director.
cruise director.
It's a great role, that, isn't it? The
Oh, it's
cruise
amazing.
director,
It
because they
is.
get in to inject just bags of fun.
Yeah.
Did it kind of carry on in that same vein for season 2?
Well,
for you?
I kind of, like, my idol is Jane McDonald. Like, so
Did you channel Jane?
Oh my
for
God,
the part?
I channeled Jane most days, to be honest. But I did kind of think I am Jane McDonald. I'm cruise director. I'm
Well, that was-
entertaining.
yeah.
It was tremendous for
And
me.
you got to wear some really sparkly jackets and shirts as
which
well.
I actually pushed for as well,
Did you?
because when I had my costume fitting, I remember trying on some of the suits and I was a bit like, oh, I think Colin would be a bit more showbiz.
Yes.
And so then they slowly brought in some sequins and stuff for him, and I think that just kind of made it.
Well,
for him.
you did. It looked fab. And I can't really speak too much about the character that I played.
Because it's a secret.
It's top secret until it comes out. But we did have a ball in Malta,
We did,
didn't we?
we
And
did.
on the ship as well. So
Yeah.
we filmed I filmed for a week on the ship with you, but you were on there for a month.
Yeah.
On the ship for a month and then in Malta for a month.
Yeah. So the ship was amazing, but the thing about being on a cruise ship is germs spread.
Oh.
And a lot of people got quite sick on the ship.
The cast and crew.
Cast and crew, yeah. Just with everyday germs. I think COVID made another appearance, and then there was like this awful norovirus thing that went round. And yeah, it was pretty grim.
Yeah, because when I arrived on the ship, you'd been ill a few days before that,
Yeah,
hadn't you? And
yeah.
you'd had to spend 3 days stuck in your cabin in bed.
I'm convinced I had COVID. I didn't. They weren't testing, so I don't know. But it felt very similar to how it was when I got COVID first time round. The director got COVID. The director had to have some time off.
Didn't she?
Yeah.
And that was
So-
after I left the ship.
Yes.
I think she ended up having to
she-
get into a cabin and stay
She
in there
did.
for a few days, didn't she? Bless her.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've jumped forwards a little bit there. What we want to know is essentially how you got into the business, how you ended up getting Hollyoaks. You were in Hollyoaks for 10
Don't
years.
jump into Hollywood one question at a time. Let's start with that.
Well,
how
let's start
did
with-
you get into the business? How old were you? How did it happen?
So I always knew that I wanted to work in telly, and I wanted to work in soap because when I grew up, my family would sit down. It was like a religion, you would watch the soaps, and it was like, and I used to sit at home and think, and I grew up in like a little mining village in Newcastle, and I thought, how do you get a job like that? How can I be in that telly?
It's almost like you want to jump into that world, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
And so I did drama at college and stuff, and then I was looking at places to go to uni or drama school, and I remember thinking, you know what? There's Emmerdale in Leeds, and there's Corrie in Manchester, and there's Hollyoaks in Liverpool. So I kind of need to be in the northwest-ish. Mm-hmm. So I went to a few places, went to Salford, and partly because Salford was the closest to Granada TV, and in my head, I thought
proximity.
That's where it is.
Help.
Yeah. So it was genuinely you wanted to do soap
desperately.
It wasn't I want to be an actor. It was I want to be a soap actor.
Yeah,
I want to
desperately.
do soap. Wow.
That was all I ever wanted to do. And then when I was in my second year at uni, we got audience tickets to go and watch a thing being filmed at Granada, and it was a thing called Celebrities Under Pressure with Vernon Kay,
right? Okay,
which was like an ITV show where a celebrity would come and learn to play the fiddle or something,
right?
And then they'd have like 30 seconds to prove to the audience that they could play the fiddle or whatever. And we went and watched that, and I noticed that there was these people walking around with these T-shirts on with 360 Media written on, and I had no idea what 360 Media was. And that night I got home and I Googled 360 Media, and there was a contact us box on their website. And I remember writing this email and basically lying, like completely lying, and saying, I've done loads of audience work at Tyne Tees. Because I thought, well, I'm from the Northeast and we've got Tyne Tees telly.
Yeah.
Tyne Tees made the news. That was it.
Brilliant.
Right?
Brilliant.
But I was like, I've done loads of audience work for Tyne Tees. So if you need anyone. How on earth... I got an email back and they said, can you come in for an interview? Because we're looking for freelance people. Well, it was in the summer holidays.
Can I just ask, what is audience work?
So, if you go and see, well, back then it was things like Stars in Their Eyes, they would always have a live...
Manage the audience, that kind of thing.
You'd seat them, you would take them to the toilet, that kind of thing. So, anyway, they said, I've got this interview. And I remember saying to my mum, I've got an interview at Granada. I don't know what to wear. And she was like, well, you have to wear a suit. So we went to Marxy's and we bought a suit, and I turned up at Key Street with a tie, with a suit, a little briefcase. I thought,
nothing in it.
Nothing in it whatsoever.
Just the bus pass.
Yeah, honestly. And I remember walking in and everyone was in jeans and T-shirts, and I was like, oh, this is not what I thought. And then I had this interview and they were like, look, it's a 0 hours contract, but, you'll be working on things like Mastermind, Stars in Their Eyes. And I was like, oh my God. And so they gave me a job and I got my Granada pass. So when I got my Granada pass, I literally was that kid who just used to rock up at Granada and have my lunch.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
How old were you then?
I was 19.
Right, okay.
And I would just talk to anybody and everybody and tell them who I was and, And it was looking back now, I would never have that confidence now to just...
Isn't that interesting?
In a million years, I wouldn't. But I did. And I just got talking to people. And then through that, I ended up becoming a runner. And I worked on things like Stars in Their Eyes and, bits and bobs. But working on a soap was always kind of the dream. That was where I wanted to go. And I remember Corrie at the time, it was its own little kind of entity within Granada.
Yeah.
And it just felt so out of reach. It just felt... I remember having my queuing up in the canteen, and Bill Roach, who plays Ken Barlow, was literally next to me in the canteen, and I was just staring at him as if he was God because. He is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a legend.
Absolute ledge. And thinking back now, you used to see people in the Granada canteen like Peter Kay and, it was just a magical time, I think, back then.
Yeah.
I remember Granada Studios because they had a tour, didn't they?
Yeah,
I remember my grandparents taking me on the Granada tour, and you got to look around this. It's like they do now with Emmerdale. They do a village tour, don't they? But back then, there was a ride involved, I'm sure.
Oh, it was all sorts.
Yeah, there was a ride that took you round and you got to see the cobbles. And I remember going. I
was living in a high-rise in Salford, not far from the uni.
Yeah.
And I used to walk past it, walking from town back, to my flat. And I always would kind of look up and see, the Granada sign and just think when you were talking about watching it, what can I do to get over that wall in there, and it just felt so far away.
So far away.
So did you end up working? We're probably going to ask the same question.
How did you penetrate ITV?
Oh dear. We'll cut that bit out. So did you end up working at at Corrie?
I did, but years and years later.
Right, okay.
So I ended up, there was 2 drama departments within Granada, separate to Corrie, and I did some running work there. And one of my first jobs was I was an office runner on a production called 11th Hour, which was like a 3-part drama for ITV with Patrick Stewart. He was the lead.
Right, yeah.
And I remember reading the script. I'd go home and I'd read all the scripts. And there was this tiny little part for a barman in like episode 2. But the scene was with the barman and Patrick Stewart.
Wow.
And I can still remember I think I had 1 line or 2 lines, and he came in to the bar and he says like...
Wait, so were you running on that show and you were like, I can do the bar guy?
Yes.
And they were like, do you know what? Just do it.
Yeah.
So you just were like, I can do that. And they said, fine.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Literally.
That's some serious confidence, isn't
I
it?
love
Just
that.
going, I can do that.
And again, I would never ever do that now. I would never have like the goal to do that now.
Yeah,
but back then I was just like, I remember going up to the casting director, was this really scary, intimidating casting director. I think she's dead now. And she was from London. She was called Doreen Jones. And I just remember...
If you're not dead, Doreen, sorry about that. And if you are, commiserations
I hope you're very healthy,
to your family.
But she was terrifying. And I just said to her, oh, Doreen, I'm an actor. And there's a part in Ep03 for a barman, and I could do that. And she was like, well, you will need to audition. And I had to do an audition. And they gave me it. And the scene was Patrick Stewart comes in and he says something like, it's not very busy in here. And I had to say... What were you hoping for? Strippers? and I must have practiced that line about 50
it's still
times.
Good now.
Thanks, Fibs.
Yeah.
And I literally got that job, and I remember thinking when it aired, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get recognised.
This is going to be my moment.
This is huge. And it wasn't. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I carried on doing like little bits and bobs, working in the drama department and working for like producers like Sita Williams, which was actually really helpful because I got to meet amazing directors, there was an amazing script editors and amazing writers, Jimmy McGovern, really great people. And did that for a while. And then, absolute curveball, joined the Fire Brigade.
Sorry?
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. So all my family work for the fire service. Literally, my mum, my dad, my uncle, everyone, my granddad, they all work.
So did you get to a point where you were going, this isn't leading to acting, I'm bored of it, I'm going to join the fire? Like, what was the...
Yeah.
I still wanted to act.
Right.
But I had to pay my rent.
And running and working within the TV industry wasn't paying your rent?
No, it wasn't.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it just wasn't. And at the time I thought... Because my mum worked in the control room taking the emergency calls, so they would do like 2 days, 2 nights, and then get 4 days off. And I remember thinking, well, that would really suit me because I've got loads of time to audition. So I joined Cheshire Fire Service.
Wow.
And
how old were you then? Around 20?
I was 21 when I joined the fire service and stayed there until I was 23 and I didn't get sacked, but I had to leave.
Okay.
Oh.
Because I got a part in Emmerdale.
No way! I didn't know that!
Yeah, so basically I got this part in Emmerdale and I had to ring in sick to film the part.
Right.
Can I ask what the part was?
Yeah, I was. It was a story with Jenny.
Oh, yeah.
Jenny, yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, Sean.
Williams?
Yeah. And she had this story where she went on like a string of like really bad dates. And I played this...
I remember this.
Yeah.
I played this guy called Alex Owen, and he was obsessed with his teeth.
Right.
And,
oh my God.
And we went on this date and all I talked about was my teeth, basically. and anyway, Sean then went on Loose Women. So by this point, we've shot it, we filmed it, and it's about to air. I'm sat in the fire service break room at lunchtime with my boss, and we're having our lunch, and Loose Women's on in the break room. And Sean comes on to talk about her upcoming stories, and they say, and we're going to play a clip from tonight's episode, this true story. And they played the clip, and it was me. And I was like, oh God. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to look. And then basically I got an email from one of the big bosses saying like, I think we need to have a chat about this. And I thought, I'm just going to have to resign. And I resigned.
Wait. Can you not be in the fire service and be an actor?
But
Is it like...
sick.
You can, but I'd called in sick to do it. And they knew.
So they knew
Yeah.
was why.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Okay.
That is a brilliant story.
That is
Yeah,
great.
that's a true story. So that's how I ended up leaving the fire service. And then when I left the fire service, I did like a string of like call center jobs just to try and like pay the bills. I was doing night shifts for like selling hotel rooms to people and all of that. And then I got a temping job because ITV would ring me up to say, like, do you want to do this running job? Do you want to do that? And they called me and said, we've got a temp job as the PA to the producer of Coronation Street. Do you want to do it? It's for 2 weeks.
Is this how you ended up working in the Emmerdale story department? Because I'm glad we're getting to this bit because this fascinates me. So you were actually in control of stories when we were there.
Yeah.
So we've worked with you.
I've written stories for you. Like,
that's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so go on, keep going. I'm thrilled. Come on.
I'm very excited.
I am very excited about this bit. Yeah.
So I basically
because it's about me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I'd got this job as the PA to the producer, and I was in Corrie, and it was like that.
You
penetrated ITV.
I had, and it was that for me was just magical. I remember going to like the soap awards because the PA to the producer would have to organise. Like
Who
Estelle,
was the producer at the time?
Yeah.
You were Estelle.
I was Estelle.
Estelle, for anyone that's listening, is
Estelle from The Office.
Estelle from The
Estelle's
Office.
been there for about 25 years,
and
if
she's
not
the
longer.
been the PA to every single producer.
Ever.
That I had a long 18 years, and you had for 15.
Whenever anyone rings the phone.
So you were Estelle.
I was Estelle.
Right. So 2 weeks.
I'd get to and it was just meant to be for 2 weeks, and then in the second
Who was
week,
the producer? Sorry, at the time.
Phil Collinson.
Okay.
And then in my second week, Phil's usual PA just happened to get another job at the BBC. So that permanent role came up, and Phil said to me, like, "Are you going to apply for it?" And I remember saying to him, "No, I'm an actor. I don't want a full. I'm an actor.
Busy auditioning, darling."
Yeah, and I really wasn't either. You know what I mean?
You haven't auditioned for weeks.
Yeah, for months.
Yeah.
And so he said, "Well, look, you get like 4 weeks, 5 weeks holiday, whatever it was. And if an audition comes up, I'll let you do it. So, but why don't?" And I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to get a mortgage and all of those things. And I thought, it'd be daft not to. So I did that job, and I ended up doing it for 18 months. And in that time, Kate Oates joined as the assistant producer, and Kate kind of saw something in me which I didn't even see, and she was like, "Have you never thought about storylining? Have you never thought about?" And I was like, "Well, no, I haven't, to be honest." And she was like, "I really think you should give it a try." And then a workshop came up at Emmerdale. I did that workshop, and I was offered a job as a storyliner, and so I moved to.
So you'd never been interested in kind of writing or that side of.
I'd always wanted to do something more creative, I think. I think, by the end of that 18 months of being the PA, I kind of felt like there was more that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And also, I used to get to go to long-term story conferences as the PA, and I'd just kind of organise things and lunch. That was basically what I did. But I used to sit in there and just soak up everything that was said in those conferences. And it was really interesting to hear like what the commissioners wanted and there was all sorts of different. I always thought, well, the producer makes the decisions and that's that. But there's so many other parts, there's so many other people who have a say in what ultimately ends up on screen.
Yeah.
And I found that fascinating and I loved it. And then so when Kate suggested becoming a storyliner, I thought, you know what, I'd love that. And then I became a storyliner.
So you were at Emmerdale. We were both there at the time.
Yeah, you both were
when you were storylining.
Yeah.
So tell us about us. Can you remember any storylines that
Do you know what? I was
stored
thinking
for
about
us?
this in the car coming over because I thought I'm sure you're going to ask me about stuff for you guys. So at the time, I remember the big story at the time was they brought back Donna Windsor.
Yes.
And it was her falling off the,
and then she
the
fell
car
off the
park, the roof of the
roof. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was loads with the Bartons.
That's Adele, isn't it?
No.
This is all going to have to get cut out now because I never know anyone's names. Verity. Right, sorry.
And there was loads with like the Bartons, and it was when they had like Pete and
the
brothers, all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I will have. There will have been.
Basically, we never have had any big stories, really, so that's
basically what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that was awkward. Anyway, that wasn't about us, so let's move on to the next thing. So why did you leave Emmerdale, and what did you do after that?
So then I became a script editor at Emmerdale because I kind of thought I wanted to produce. That was like, because I looked at Kate Oates and thought, oh my God, I just want to be you.
Yeah, everyone wants to be Kate.
And the acting kind of, you decided to put that on a back burner, or you just decided that you wanted to move in a different direction?
No, I had. I thought I was just about to turn 30, and I remember thinking, I just don't want to be a jobbing actor. and it felt like I'd put it to bed, and I was comfortable with the fact that I'd put it to bed, I think.
Yeah.
But then my best friend was a script editor at Hollyoaks, and he emailed me out of the blue one day and said, they're about to start casting for this character, and Ross, I really think you should give it a try. And I remember saying to him, you know, look, I think those days have gone, you know, and I sat on it and I thought, oh, you know what, should I just see if
just
I can...
go for it, so what, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And I emailed the casting director and I emailed the exec of Hollyoaks and just said, I might be completely wrong for this, but I'd love to have a bash at auditioning.
Did you have an agent at the time, or were you just reaching out to them? Okay,
yeah,
great.
No, I
So
did.
you still had your agent.
And I went and I auditioned, and I think the following day I had a screen test. It was all super, super quick. And then they offered. And the worst thing about that was I had to go and say to Kate, I'm leaving. Can I leave, please? I've got another job. And that was because she'd really believed in me, and she'd given me these amazing opportunities. And I remember just feeling so guilty that, you know, because I couldn't give a month's notice. Hollyoaks wanted me to start pretty much like the following week.
Oh, my gosh.
And Kate was amazing. You know, she was so understanding and, like, you know, kind of said, oh, you know, this is going to cause a headache, but you absolutely have to do it. And, you know... And so
how long had you been there at Emmerdale?
I spent 18 months in the story office, and then I script edited for about a year. So
right, okay.
Nearly 3 years, kind of
almost,
2.5, 3 years.
2.5, yeah.
Wow, isn't it funny the way things come around? I almost think it goes back to that thing that sometimes, and we've spoke about this previously on the podcast, that when you've got a dream or something that you really, really want to do, as soon as you let go of it, it gives the universe space to bring it to you.
Yeah.
That thing when you just like, oh my gosh, this has to happen, I really want it to happen, and you kind of squeezing the life out of it, and you can't help but do it because it's your hopes and your dreams.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you give it space and you focus on something else, it comes to you. And
Yeah.
so it is that thing about just see it happening, put it out there, believe.
Yeah.
But it's much
also
easier said than done. But that's just a
Well, it
perfect
is,
example, isn't it?
But also, you did have a job. You had a job, so if it didn't work out, it wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
no, I know
some
completely
people when
what
they
you mean.
want it so bad.
Yeah, we've all been in those
we've all
situations.
been
I remember
in
when
there.
I left Emmerdale the first time, you know, I left because there were other things that I wanted to do. And, you know, I did do some theatre and that was amazing. But, you know, the certain things that you audition for and you're desperate for it to work out because every audition you go for, well, not every, but, you know, there are auditions that you go for that you know are game changers.
Yeah.
And I think it's so hard to walk into those rooms going, hey, do you know what? I'm just going to go in there and be me and just see what happens, you know, just let it be. You go in there and you're terrified because it feels like there's so much at stake. So it's great. I just love that story because I do believe that when you let things go, they kind of, what is meant to be and all of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But,
So you were at Hollyoaks then for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And I loved, do you know what? Like, I loved it. And it was, I went in on a 6-month contract and I thought I'd only be there for 6 months, if I'm honest.
And you were there for 10 years?
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Did it feel like it's gone really quickly? But it's also been forever?
In a heartbeat. If I think back to even my first day, like I remember we do Hollyoaks and I still call it work. Do you still do that?
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Like I still refer to Hollyoaks as work and it's not my work anymore.
Yeah,
but,
I do that, yeah.
How long ago did you leave now?
I shot my last ever scene on May the 31st. So I'd done Good
Not
Shit
long.
Murder, and then we had a week off, and in that week off, I went back and did my last scene.
Final scenes.
Yeah.
And is that because did you already got Good Shit Murder? So they had to schedule around you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which was quite a nice feeling, to be fair, to be able to kind of have another job to go to. But it's also terrifying, and I think that's where I'm at now. You know, I am terrified about what is next because you have that stability, you have that security for, you know, as long as we've had it. And then the thought of being a jobbing actor again.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It's completely terrifying. And it feels so far removed from
what you've been used to for so long.
And what I want as well. You know what I mean? And I think that comes with, as you get older, I love sleeping in my own bed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't particularly want to be away from home a lot. And the thought of doing a tour, like a theatre tour or something like that, just fills me with dread.
Yeah. Is it not something that you would do? Or would you do it because you may have to do it?
I don't think I would.
No.
Well, this brings us to all of your side hustles, though, doesn't it? Because you're not someone who has just done soap.
Yeah.
You've been, doing that and fulfilling that dream that you've always had, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But now that's come to an end and you're in an ocean of fear, like the rest of job and actors in the world, never knowing, you don't know whether you're going to be inundated with jobs next year or sat twiddling your thumbs. So what other things do you do? You've got a drama school.
I have.
How long have you been doing the drama school?
Since 2016.
Oh my gosh, you did not mess around. So you
No.
set up your side hustle
When I was
while
in.
you were still...
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of did it because it had been on my mind to do for a while. But
Did you ever go to kids' workshops when you were younger?
I did, but there was nothing. I knew I wanted to work in telly, and all of my drama schools when I was a kid, you'd do Oliver or you'd do
Right.
Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor.
So it wasn't geared towards screen acting. It
Not
was always
one bit.
about
So your
musicals.
Your schools
Yeah.
now are screen acting.
solely
schools.
focused towards
I think
screen
that's
acting.
really good, really important, because I do think there's a big lack of that or even kids that are doing it at like college
Yeah.
or in school. It tends to just be plays. No one ever really puts a script in their hand
No.
and says this is what a TV script looks like,
Yeah.
and this is kind of what how it works.
Well, yeah, because I remember when I first joined Emmerdale, I'd never done TV before. I didn't have a clue about hitting
Marks.
a mark,
Yeah.
about finding your light, about like not masking somebody else.
Yeah.
Like when you were,
I still
didn't-
don't have a clue about anything.
No,
But,
yeah. Continuity. You are the worst for continuity, aren't you? Like she'll do things with her
yeah.
hands, and then they're like, "You did this, and this," and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really get taught that. And
No.
the fact that you've got these schools and you're teaching kids from quite a young age. How old are the
From
youngest?
5, so we go
Wow.
from
No,
yeah.
so cute.
Yeah. And you know what? Genuinely, some of our kids have had like careers that I would dream of.
No, really.
Oh my God, we've had kids do films. We've had kids on Ted Lasso for Apple TV. We've had kids on Netflix dramas. Like some of our kids are, well, all of our kids, but some of them in particular have just, their little careers at 9 years old have just gone through the
Wow.
roof. Yeah.
And so alongside these schools, so where are the schools? that
So
you've got?
we started with one in Salford, and that one on week 1, 6 kids turned up.
Right.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, like this is going to fail miserably.
Right, yeah.
And we kind of tried to recruit for kids by like proper old school leaflet drops through doors.
I love that.
Well, we got 6 people, Roxy, so it wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't great.
It's not the way to go.
No. But then slowly but surely it built up. And then we got to a point where the Salford Academy, we couldn't really take any more kids. And so we decided to open a second one. And the second one we opened was in Wigan. So now we've got, we do Wigan on a Saturday morning and Salford on a Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
And
when you say these kids have got amazing careers, that is your agency as well.
Yeah.
So alongside the schools, you set up this agency. Did that start straight away in 2016, or was it something that evolved?
That evolved later. So the agency came along in 2018. And that was as a bit of a response to one of the kids that we taught had an agent. That particular agency is still running, but the agent was taking 30% commission.
That's daylight robbery, isn't
But
it?
you know what? In terms of child agencies, that's actually not all that uncommon.
Really?
Yeah, and it astounded me because I couldn't believe that these kids were working, but so much of their income was being just given to their agent.
Yeah.
And they're already on a reduced income because they're
course they
kids,
are.
aren't they?
Yeah.
So they're working for a lot less
Yeah.
than an adult would be. And actually the burden on them emotionally is
Massive.
heavier because they are only kids. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like they're doing twice the work for
Half
quarter
the money.
of the pay.
Yeah.
Wow. So was that something that you kind of endeavoured to not do to the kids
And
that
we
were
don't.
on your books?
We take 15% commission,
Which is standard.
Yeah,
That's
standard.
what-
You know, that's
well, that's
what
standard
Adults
for,
get. Yeah,
for adults, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, and that's what we take. So that was kind of, we set up the agency because I wanted to make sure that all of our kids who did want to work would be paid properly and fairly for what they did, but also they wouldn't lose out on most of their fees to
Agents.
agency commission. So we started, and then I think we were quite successful with commercials. We got a lot of our kids did commercials to start off with, and then the more that we pushed the kind of acting side of the classes, they started getting jobs with like Sheridan Smith and, you know, all sorts of amazing people.
Wow.
And yeah, we still run the agency. And I used to do all of that on my own. So I'd go to Hollyoaks and do scenes, and in between takes I'd be submitting my clients for jobs and calling casting directors and doing deals and negotiating fees and then going back to work.
That's fantastic.
And I've just done that throughout. And thankfully, now that Hollyoaks has come to an end for me, that has given me something to focus on and put my energies into. But I think that the other big reason why I wanted to set up our schools was because, and our big thing is like kindness and empathy underpins everything that we do. Because I think there's a lot of people in TV who aren't kind and aren't empathetic. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, you know, I really struggled with that. And there have been times when, and I think working in telly is the best job ever. And I love it and I still love it. But there have been times, and I've witnessed things that have been, there's been times when I've thought, oh, you know, that situation could have been handled in such a more compassionate, empathetic way. And actors in general, I think we're all competing. It's a very competitive industry. You've got to be really resilient. But I also think what I don't like is, so say for example, a lot of drama schools and stuff, kids drama schools will do like Star of the Week.
Yeah,
we don't do that. We actually have something called Leader of the Pack, and PAC stands for performance. So if they do a good performance, A is ambassador, like are you a role model, are you an ambassador for the school? C is confidence, and K is kindness.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if a student can show all of those 4 qualities, they can win Leader of the Pack, and they get like a sash and they get a little mini Oscar. And I think that's really important, because
it's not just about you got the lead or you're the best, you're superior to everyone else.
Yeah.
It's about a collaboration. And actually, I think those are the actors that are the best people to be around, because it's only, I think, when you feel safe,
completely,
can you give your best performance. And when you give your best performance, no matter how good the other person is, they just get better. Then it becomes an ensemble and a collaboration, and you're really creating a world together.
Yeah.
Whereas if you makes someone else feel other and outside and less than, then actually what you do,
which a lot of actors do.
Yeah, of course.
Then you're not in this magical world together, and therefore you can't act properly together. So I love that as an ethos. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that you're turning these kids out into the world, into the big bad world of television with that ethos.
Yeah.
From 5 years old.
But they are going to be the next generation of, you know, Whitney was right, wasn't she? I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. You know, and I think if those kids go out into the world and they have that kind of empathy and that kindness about them, then maybe some of the monsters that exist in telly will kind of fall by the wayside, which would be nice.
It takes real confidence, I think, to be kind. I think it's really easy. I think a lot of the time when people are mean and they exclude people, it's because of their own insecurities. But I think as you get older, it's easy to see that, because as you get older, you become naturally more confident in who you are.
Yeah.
But when you're little, those people that are mean and have got the loudest voice and the nastiest things to say seem like the leaders of the pack. They're the people to be feared and revered and bow down to. But it's only as you get older, you go, everything you say that comes out of your mouth that is negative or mean, I know it's just because you're vulnerable and you're weak.
Yes.
But I think kids don't understand that. So I think it's fantastic that you're teaching kids to be strong leaders and kind and compassionate, so that they recognise that actually that's where their strength lies.
And also, if you think about it, like how hard is it for us if we have an audition and we don't get it? You know, I know what I'm like.
It breaks you straight away. No matter how much experience you've got, you're like, well, I'm rubbish then.
Yeah.
Clearly it's me. You know, they might be looking for, you know, a 70-year-old. They might have changed their mind and recast it as an old man, and I'd still be going, well,
why wasn't
I could have played that.
Yeah. But imagine how hard that is to be
kids,
a child.
Brutal.
And think, well, why aren't I good enough? Why, you know? So
have you experienced that with Buster? Because Matthew's son acts, and he's phenomenally gifted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is. He's fantastic. But and the last audition that he had, or self-tape, he didn't get. And he was upset about it because he put a lot of work into it.
He does put a lot of work into it,
it was, it's hard to see that because it's my son. But also I have to then say to him, listen, this is going to happen 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's very common that you will only get 1 out of 100 jobs. Do you know what I mean? And you just got to keep going. You got to just keep your chin up and wait for the next self-tape to come through. And it is hard to tell a 14-year-old that, and I'm sure that you have this.
It's hard to tell a 40-year-old that as well, isn't it?
100%. But is that something that you deal with the kids at your drama school as well? The kids that because there will be kids there that are getting stuff, and then kids who aren't getting stuff. So how do you deal with that and their
really
emotions
tricky
around that?
To navigate, I think. But what we try and explain to them is, like what you just said, Roxy, there's so many different reasons why an actor wouldn't get a part, and it has nothing to do sometimes with
you,
their talent, or how brilliant they are as an actor. It could be they want a different eye colour, or they want a different hair colour, or it's countless things, reasons why they might not get the jobs. So we try and explain that to them, and then it's about boosting their confidence again and just making them believe that, you know what, that job didn't work, but let's focus on the next one, and let's make you the best person that you can be, so that when that next audition comes through, you feel like you've got it, because if you feel good and you feel like you could do the part, if you don't get it, you can kind of be like, oh well,
next one,
never mind.
And how does it look when you're teaching the kids to act for the camera? Have you got like a full setup? Have you got cameras in the room? Have you got like boom microphones and stuff? So you're actually teaching proper technique. Kids will face when they get onto a TV set. Yeah,
and we'll put little marks on the floor, and we do all of that because that's important. And also, when they get their first job, I don't want them to turn up on a set and have no idea
what it looks like. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And even the terminology and stuff, the stuff like the phrases and the things that an AD would say that, most kids wouldn't have a clue what those things mean, but we try and teach them. We even did a session on like reading a call sheet. Because
brilliant.
You get a call sheet and you don't really know what that means.
I still don't know what that. Half the time I'm like, what?
Well, come along, I'll do a session.
Should we book in? I think we need to book in. That's really interesting, actually, because I can remember like younger people coming into Emmerdale when I'd been there quite a number of years.
You've said this before.
Who didn't know how to look. They didn't know what they were doing the next day because they couldn't read the call sheet, and they couldn't read it. They didn't understand the call sheet. And then, what does that mean? Which scripts do I have to learn for tomorrow? Where do I find? No one goes through it. You're just thrown in.
You are
thrown in at the deep end. There's 12 scripts. Go work it out yourself. And I think the fact that you're teaching them that now
really empowering, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
It's just about giving them all the tools that they can need so that they feel confident. That is essentially all it is. It's we want them to, if they get a job or they do some work, we want them to feel like, oh yeah, well I know what I'm doing. Because I think if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, it can impact your performance.
Absolutely.
It can impact everything. So hopefully they'll.
We haven't asked fantastic. What is your drama school called?
It's called Small Screen Talent.
That's it. Small Screen Talent. And do you have a website?
We do. www.smallscreentalent.com. And we have a new intake day probably about 3 times a year. So we have one in September, we will have another one after Christmas, and then another one after Easter.
Well, we'll put all the information underneath the video and stuff.
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
Who knows?
Who knows? I know. Big question.
Yeah.
Are you going back for another season of Good Ship Murder? If Good Ship Murder has another season?
Yeah, so it's definitely been commissioned.
Oh, great. That's exciting.
So I know that they are doing another one.
Murder.
But they have to let me know by the 25th of January. So I'm kind of hoping.
Oh, that's loads of time. Yeah, you're going to hear on the 24th. It's awful, isn't it? Why is it always like that?
I know. And you're like,
it'll be the week before when you've gone, do you know what? They've not rang. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it
gone.
go. And then you'll get that call.
Yeah, I know. But I wanted to kind of do a bit of writing as well. I think for me, I am the type of person where I couldn't just sit at home and wait for the phone to ring.
No.
I just wouldn't be able to.
I don't think it's good for your mental health. I think to be creative in any capacity is so important, because it makes you feel you feel creatively alive, and therefore I think it gives you a sense of integrity and energy in the world. Whereas I think when you're just sat waiting for the phone to ring, and then a week's gone by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, as the more time that goes by, the less you feel like you and like you have value. And value isn't just associated with money, but it's about being present and engaging and creating and collaborating and just, you know, an exchange of energy. Like, I know it sounds so cheesy, but no matter what that is, like some people might go and garden, or some people might go and, you know, just join a walking club and be keen walkers and get out in nature, whatever it is that connects you with the world you need to do. So sat waiting for the phone to ring, it's like the death of creativity, isn't it?
And also,
so you've got to do anything.
But you do put yourself through that, don't you? Like, when you're not working and all your focus is on when's the agent going to ring?
Yeah.
And they never ring.
And they never ring. And it gets to Friday again and you're like, no,
I can't believe it's Friday.
Or you book a holiday, you go on that holiday, and then suddenly you get about 6 self-tips, or you know what I mean? And it's like, so I think maybe doing a bit of, because I am interested in people and stories, and if I'm out anywhere, you know, like if I'm in a coffee shop and there's someone having a big, deep and meaningful, I will want to earwig to that. Like, I want to know everything that's gone on, because I think we've all got stories in us, haven't we? Like, and you guys write, so you know what it's like to be creative in that aspect and come up with loads of different things. And I feel like the older I get, the more stories I've got in my head. And I just want to get them out. I just want to kind of...
So do you think that's the next thing for you, writing, doing...
Are you working on anything at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not going to ask you about it. Keep it inside. Keep it inside.
I wanted to ask you, going back to the writing as well, did you not write for Hollyoaks for a little while?
Yeah, I did.
While you were in it?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Well, you know what? It's one of those things where I think the exec producer that we had at the time was really brilliant and kind of said, because I'd said, do you want me to write under a pseudonym? Because, you know, you do worry that other cast members might think, oh, hang on a minute. And she thought about that for a while, and then she came back to me and she said, you know what, Ross, I think we celebrate the fact that it's you. I think we don't hide it. You know, let's tell people that it is you. So that's what they did. But I think...
How was it received?
Yeah, well, yeah. It was
I mean, by the cast, was everyone quite open to it?
To my face, to my face.
That's what I'd worry about, right?
Yeah.
Because you just never know.
Yeah,
what is this rubbish?
Yeah.
But were you in the episode that you wrote for as well? So you wrote for yourself.
But you know what? Hilarious. So I wasn't. So my character wasn't storylined to be in that episode,
right?
And I was pleased about that, because
of course.
I did.
You can't write yourself that huge speech.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah. And I thought, you know, thank God. And then I went to the first draft meeting, and the exec actually said, you know what? I feel like it's missing Scott in this episode. And I was like, oh, yeah, me too. So I ended up, he did make an appearance. But do you know what, though? I was really, I mean, I could have gone to town. I could, because you know your own characters so well. Yeah. And I was so restrained, because I thought, I cannot make this all about me. You know what I mean? Imagine if it turned out like Dot's episode of EastEnders, where it's just me, like a monologue. And I thought, I can't do that. So I didn't. But I loved that whole experience, and I think it would be nice to maybe do a little bit more of that. But I think writing for soaps, because like for you guys, I think write for Emmerdale.
Well, we'd love to. It sounds like we're going to, but we're not. It's something we've said we'd like to.
But you know why I think you'd be the best people to write for it?
I don't know. Tell us.
I'll tell you.
Come on.
Because I couldn't tell you the great stories that I came up with, when I was there. So I'll tell you why I think you'd be. But I actually think that show, when you are an actor in a show like Emmerdale, Corrie, whatever, that show and those characters better than anyone.
Sure.
And you also know the history of those characters, because that's really important, especially for an audience who's been watching for like 20 years or whatever. You know, they will know if you've got your dingle wrong, or if you've got, there's something, they know in a heartbeat. Yeah. You're not going to make those mistakes, because you know that show inside out. So I think of all the people to be writing for a soap, it should
should be us.
Yeah.
Should be us.
Can we just get a soundbite of what he just said, and we'll send it to the producer after the podcast?
Anyway, thank you so much
I've
for being
loved
here
it.
with us today. I'm really excited to see what it is that you do next.
Oh.
Hopefully, we'll have you back on to talk to us all about that.
Fingers
All about
crossed.
the next side.
All about the
hustle.
next side of
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been gorgeous talking
So
to you.
nice.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
I've loved it.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Bye, bye, bye.
So, that was Ross.
That was
I told
Ross.
you Ross was a nice man.
Yeah.
Very nice man.
He is a very nice man.
I want to be more Ross. Every guest that comes on, I always think I want to be more like them.
Well, that's the whole point of this podcast, I suppose, isn't
what?
it?
For us to get better.
For us to be better people.
Oh, God, we're going to have a lot of seasons. We're going to just keep going.
But no, it is, isn't it? It's inspirational.
It
and
is inspirational.
I think his story, the fact that he wanted to be an actor, it kind of wasn't happening, and he went down the other route of going
But what did
into
he
behind
do?
the
He
scenes.
consistently put himself into those situations
Absolutely.
and created a life in that world, and everything's just kind of worked out for him. So I
Yeah.
think what I'm going to take from that is like, just keep going, just keep trying with
Yeah.
the things that you want to do, keep putting your energy into it, and something's going to come out of it.
Absolutely.
At some point.
I thought that was a wonderful
Loved it.
interview. Well done.
You and